Hey, what's going on, everyone? How you guys doing? My name is Matt Jarbo. Welcome back to another episode of Patio Commentary. Today, I want to talk about K-pop Demon Hunters. This is a new animated film, came out last week on Netflix. It's from Sony Animation, and I'm just gonna say it. This is hands down one of the best films I've seen this year. Like, I literally just stopped watching it, turned off Netflix, came in here, hit record, and I'm not gonna lie when I say this. I'm actually still wiping kind of tears away from my eyes. This movie impacted me emotionally in a lot of ways, right? It was just really heartfelt, funny, loved the message, and I just really connected with it in a way that I never thought that I ever would. And yeah, I'm really happy that it exists. You know what I mean? This is one that I saw the trailer for a couple weeks ago before it came out. Looked interesting, it looked okay. Like, okay, trio of K-pop pop stars that also fight demons. All right, cool concept. I can dig it. Gives me a little bit of like, Turning Red vibes from the trailer. Because like I made a joke a number of years ago when Turning Red came out that it was like the horniest movie Pixar ever made. And obviously because it's about the girls going through puberty. So that's a big part of it. Here, it's very similar, right? Like it's very similar in regards to like the horniness level is not as yeah, it's there. I mean, it's absolutely there. Like, there's a scene when like the girls first see the Saja boys, and one of them has like abs for days, and like the one girl just like starts seeing pineapples because it's ripped, and then starts crying popcorn. Or no, it was corn. It was corn. It wasn't pineapple. It was corn. Jesus, because then the popcorn, and then you get the other girl eating the popcorn. It's like it's very in your face in regards to its horniness, and I'm not like condemning that. I think it's really funny, especially if we can look at movies or stories from the perspective of almost like this is like the female orgasm experience, which is something that gets denied quite a bit in these kind of movies. I mean, and not in these kind of films, but just in films in general. There's this issue all the time about like the female orgasm. Go find the documentary This Film Is Not Yet Rated, and you'll see what I'm talking about with the MPAA and trying to like downplay the female orgasm. And this movie is not orgasmic. Like there's no sex in it. There's love, there's passion, I guess. There are feelings of hormonal aspects, but really it's just about, Rumi and was it in Maya and Zoe of Hunter X, the K-pop band, especially Rumi leading the charge. She's voiced by Arden Cho, did a great job. And it's kind of a standard story. Let's be fair here. Okay. You've got your trio of demon hunters. One of them has a secret that she doesn't share with the others. In this case, spoilers, she's half demon, half human. And their job is to kill demons. So she is, half of what she is meant to kill, so that's part of her shame, and she ends up meeting Jinu, and Jinu is a demon who becomes the leader of the Saja Boys, a boy band group that is there to steal the fans and also the souls of all the people to go back and feed like the demon king Juima or Guima, and so it's like it's an interesting story about that where you've just got like everyone has their problems. Like Maya's too aggressive, Zoe's too eager to please. And the idea behind the hunters is that they're not able and they're not allowed to show their emotion. They're not allowed to show their weaknesses or their failures. They have to be perfect at every step, and I do feel that's very indicative of, the culture, some cultures. I don't want to necessarily say Asian culture or Korean culture, but because I've seen it here in the States as well with domestic culture in some places. I think people can identify with that idea of like, don't show any emotion, don't show any weakness, right? What did I say at the beginning of this whole thing? I was wiping tears from my eyes. I have no problem when I'm talking about movies to show my emotion. These are stories that are meant to bring out that emotion, stories that are meant to elicit that emotion. And I love, I'm not going to fucking lie, I love to let myself fall into those emotions, right? That's how I connect with these stories that I love so much. And this movie absolutely took me there. And I didn't think it would. I didn't think it would. It's like I said, it's pretty basic, right? You've got this story has been seen before, but the way that they did it, the characters, the setting, the style, the relationship between, Rumi and Jinu, right? Kind of like a West Side Story sort of situation, opposite sides of the track, more in common than not, right? Finding that love for each other as a result of that. And still kind of ending with the same, at least the same kind of way. Kind of it's in this particular movie, I guess if I'm gonna summarize it, it's like a Romeo and Juliet type story. Because West Side Story is just Romeo and Juliet, right? I mean, that's all it is. But no, it really is like a Romeo and Juliet type story here. Just without the suicide, which is good, and a lot of really good music and good visuals. I do have a complaint though, and I've been noticing this in some of these films. Why? I don't know why. There's this thing. They did this in Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. I think they did this in like Across the Spider-Verse and Into the Spider-Verse. Like some of these movies now are starting to like drop frames for some reason. It's like, it's just, I know it's a stylistic choice. I don't like it, right? Give me 24 frames or give me 30 frames, whatever. Stop dropping frames, like 16 frames a second. Like, just don't do that. It takes me out of the scene completely. And that happened at the beginning of the movie. And then after that, it kind of evened itself out. It's a stylistic choice. I get it, but I really don't like it when they do that. It's like, show me, I'm watching this, show it to me in the way that, you're showing me the rest of the movie. But what I thought was really interesting about this movie is like they kill demons, like flat out kill demons, like they're like, hey, look, it's a demon, let's kill it. And then it's like, but we kind of find out that these demons have like feelings and they have fears and they've got, their own agency to an extent, right? Jinu and the Saja boys, not even the Saja boys, they're kind of all expendable. But Jinu, obviously with his backstory of being like a person who was trying to help his family, couldn't help his family, made a deal with the devil in order to gain riches. But the cost was ultimately he kind of had to like sacrifice his family, to not go with him, right? To leave them behind. And then eventually he succumbed to the deal, which was, the devil would get his soul basically. And then at that point, he spent 400 years working in service of the devil, but was always very self-serving, very selfish. That's kind of the point of Jinu's character. And then at the end, he learns to not be selfish and to act with love, right? And in service of others, which is what he should have done all along. And that's also kind of what Rumi does. Rumi, in the sense that like she hid who she was from her sisters and everybody else, and she did that in shame because her aunt Celine, who was a previous hunter in that generation, had raised her to hide all of that, thinking that if they destroyed the devil or if they stopped the devil by having this, this Hanmun, it's a barrier, it's a spiritual barrier created by music, which I thought was actually really cool. And that would stop the access to the demon realm and everything else. But but again, like what I like about this movie is that it doesn't necessarily shy away from the darkness, right? I was watching it with my 5-year-old, and I mean, I didn't think that it would be that big of a deal, but she was she was scared a little bit, right? Like there's the scene when they're on the subway and all the demons in the portal come out and they're crawling all in the subway and everybody's just on their phones and they think they're going into a tunnel. And then the girls defeat them, but they're not fast enough. And when they go and they check the, when they go and they check the subway car, all the people are gone. And there'd been a previous report about how the missing persons cases had been rising at like exponential numbers, So obviously showing that like the barrier has been weakened and the demons have been able to feast on the souls of humans, and therefore it's causing this problem. And so you see it play out in the movie pretty well. The downside to that though is that like I don't feel like we got like enough dread out of that, right? It was always meant to be a back bit, on the back burner of the story. Like this is what the threat is. But I feel like there wasn't enough there. Like the Ken Jeong played the manager, and you kept thinking towards like the back half of the movie, I'm like, they're gonna kill this guy, right? Like this is gonna be this is going to be like their what they have to deal with. No, they don't. They keep him alive and whatever. And I totally get all that, but I just kind of felt like, man, that would have been something that I think would have probably done it. To really solidify is if Bobby, the manager, would have died, it would have been like, this is how close it is right now. It's like right at your door, like you can't protect everybody sort of thing. And I think that would have really kind of ramped up the situation a little bit. But at the end of the day, it didn't need it, right? When Rumi is out there performing at the end and, she's singing the song, she's been having trouble with her voice because the demon side is kind of like taken over and stopping her from closing this Hanmoon. And she finally kind of like finds the energy to do it. But then Jinu ends up, using that against her and having her exposed. It was a really well done scene. It was that all is lost moment that we see in these stories. And I thought it worked out real well. And then what I liked was like right at the climax, right at the, everything is going to end, bad guys are going to win. Here she comes with the realization of like, no, this is, the Hanmoon. Yeah, we're going to destroy it, but we're going to rebuild it with something better. We're not going to hide from who we are. We're not going to hide what we are. We're not going to hide our fears, our insecurities, our imperfections, our defects. We're not going to hide any of that shit, right? Like that's a lot of the vibe I got from this movie, like the end of that. And that's one of the things I loved about that, because so many people these days, they're so wrapped up in this idea of like, I've got to be perfect. I can't be flawed. I have to be, no blemishes, a perfect pearl in an oyster, right? That kind of thing. And then this movie is just like, no, you don't. Like, fuck that. You don't have to do that. And a lot of movies have that same message, to be fair. And they oftentimes get me in the same way. Music, man, good music makes me like freaking just like puddle up. You know what I mean? Like, I'll get into it, I'll feel the beat, and then I'm just like, hell yeah, like, let's go. So I was just watching this whole thing and I really enjoyed like the humor and the characters and the girls were great. I don't know why I got like Josie and the Pussycat vibes for some reason, but then again, like I love that damn movie from nearly 25 years ago. And yeah, man, like this was super solid. Like this should have been in theaters. I'm actually really, really bummed this wasn't in theaters. Now, I'll be honest with you, I probably wouldn't have seen it in theaters, to be fair. Okay. But I really wish that people who like K-pop, like these kind of stories and just want to see like good animation on the big screen would have been able to do that. Right. Like Elio is tanking, unfortunately. I think K-pop Demon Hunters would have probably done pretty well, although they would have had to change the title just because it's like, people would have been like, oh no, the demons. I can't be taking my kids to see a movie about demons. Never mind, it says Demon Hunter. But then trying to explain K-pop to middle America boomers is probably not going to work out very well. That being said, Jinyu at the end, right, man? This guy, he sacrifices himself for love. He gives his soul to Rumi, so Rumi can then, close the Hanmoon and protect the earth, right? And then at the very end, we see that he's got the cat and the bird that were his pets, right? Like, that's the kind of thing that's a little bit, still trying to understand the cat and the bird, what they are. But I'm not critical of it because like, man, the cat was cute as hell, and the bird was great too. I mean, if they had a plushie of that, I'd probably end up getting it. I'm not going to lie. So I don't know, man. Listen, at the end of the day, this was a great movie. It was a fun movie. It's only like an hour and a half. It's short, it's quick, it's punchy, but it gets in, it gets out, it gets you feeling things. The music is freaking awesome. And if they do a sequel to this, and I don't know what they would do, but if they bring Jinyu back, man, like hell yeah, like let that happen. You know what I mean? Let Rumi find some love, and that's yeah, I really I really liked it. So there we go. But your thoughts, your opinions, I'm very curious to know. Let me know down in the comments section. I'll talk to you guys later. Thank you again for listening to this episode of Patio Commentary. Have yourself a great day. Be sure to like and subscribe and recommend me some movies. I'll talk to you all later, and peace out.